Hey y'all, welcome to Nah But For Real, where besties who heal together keep it real together. I'm Allie, and this here is Jay. And so we are here with you for another week and another episode. And while you're here, go ahead and make sure you are following us on all social media platforms at nbfr podcast, making sure that you are on our YouTube, giving us likes, as well as subscribing to our channel. And so I guess we can just go ahead and hop right into our icebreaker. Now, our icebreaker this week is your unpopular Black opinion.
Mm.
You go first.
My unpopular Black opinion, and I feel like it's becoming more popular, so I'm gonna say old school Black opinion, is that what happens in this family stays in this family. I personally feel like, first of all, if it's something that's good happening in the family, then the community can benefit from it. So I don't understand why you withhold good information from your community. If there's something bad happening in the family, the community can benefit from it. So for the most part, your community is going to benefit from hearing a shared experience. So you should share it. I personally don't believe in gatekeeping within your own community. That's the whole point of having a gate, to keep others outside, not to keep your family out. What the hell? So yeah, I personally think that we should share our experiences as a community so that we can do better. Yeah, that was mine.
I like that one. Mine is I don't know if it's going to be controversial, so we'll see. But I said that mainstream hip hop is inhibiting Black growth.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, because I know that a lot of people are like, well, it's reality, and yeah, it is reality, and I think it's normalizing things that are not healthy. So, yes, it could be our reality, of course, but it gets to a point where can it get toxic? Like if we just keep saying the same things and time after time. I mean, and all these deaths that are happening with these rappers, like it's ridiculous at this point. So yes, I say mainstream hip hop is inhibiting Black growth. So yes, it can be normalized, and this could be what we're going through, but how can we grow from it? What are these rappers saying that can teach people who are going through that experience that they went through? What are they saying that's going to help them get out of it, not keep doing it?
Yeah.
But my unpopular Black opinion.
I agree. I'm gonna sip tea, but I agree. But I'm gonna still dance to it.
Lord. So yes, okay. So as we're talking about like unpopular Black opinions, we often find ourselves in spaces where our opinion might actually be popular just in that space that we're in. And so talking about an echo chamber being exactly what you hear, like hello, 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 just like that. So you find yourself being in a space where your thoughts and your opinions are going to be the same as other people's thoughts and other people's opinions, and that doesn't leave room for an opposing view. So it doesn't leave room for much, in my opinion, learning, developing. So with that, Jay, have you found yourself in an echo chamber?
Yeah, I found myself in both an echo chamber that I consider myself, I'm a proud member of, which is the Beehive. I will not be leaving that echo chamber anytime soon, y'all. I will die in there. Well, yeah, the Beehive is one. I don't want to hear no Beyonce back talk. I don't care. But serious though, veganism and toxic diet culture. I have found myself in spaces that talk about, not saying that veganism is a problem, not saying that any other quote unquote diet fad is an issue. I'm not a registered nutritionist, so I cannot tell you. But what I can say is that there's so much knowledge on other sides of the spectrum in which you can't just say meat's bad, veggies good, you know? There's always this gray area. There's always research that supports another side. And when you just, like for me, for a while, I was just sitting in spaces and absorbing energy or absorbing content, that supported that claim that meat bad, veggies good. And then you start seeing, the same shit. Like you never grow and never really learn other forms of nutrition and other forms of lifestyles that don't support this claim. So, and actually for a very long time, because I live in a vegan household right now. I grew up in, with people who mostly are vegan. I have my family is very strong in the vegan community. And I actually just probably sometime around this year start learning about different lifestyles. Some people who only eat meat and don't eat vegetables at all, and some people who just live on farms and grow their own, like just a lot of other research that supports other data. I've never been vegan. I've never stayed vegan myself, I should say. So it never was like to violate, like it's never like it stopped me from doing anything. But I have consumed a lot of information in past years that stopped me from learning about other people's lifestyles and being empathetic to other people's lifestyles as well.
Yeah. Now, for me, it's a little bit deeper. So not deeper than what you're saying, but like deeper than I may be able to express. So I'm going to try my absolute best to express it the best way I can. Now, finding myself in an echo chamber where it's like Black women, and a lot of times these Black women being involved in relationships with Black men, and then we get the Black woman side of the story of what has happened, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, niggas ain't shit, like, and it's like echoed around, and it takes away, it like pushes out the man's perspective, and we don't ever really hear the man's perspective. We don't really know what he had going on, what happened with him. Like, we don't really know that. We just know the Black woman's perspective, and it takes away a whole side of the story. And so it just kind of leaves room for only one side, really. So that's where I find myself a lot of times, is on social media within the Black women realm. And a lot of times what's happening with Black women, they're always just like, oh, like, I got spiritual stuff going on, or I got this going on, Black girl magic. Oh, fuck these niggas. Like, we single. Like, you see how we sprinkle it in there? That's how it gets sprinkled in there. Like, it really gets sprinkled. So
it's hurt. A little hurt up in there, just a bit.
A little bit of hurt, but other than that, spirituality, like, so,
my lash business.
right. He got my business, entrepreneur. Like, that's where I find myself. So it's like this push and pull and this tug of war. That's almost how I'm like envisioning in my head, where we constantly see where we're pushing against these men, and then like we want to bring them in because we love our Black men, so we want to bring them in. But when it's time to bring them in, that's when they're pushing us, and now they trying to get away. So it's like this. It seems like either side's not understanding the other side's perspective, because there's so much hurt in one side and so much hurt in the other side, that neither one is able to actually see why each other are actually hurt, because they're only taking their perspective, and men are only on the men's side. So like, we have all these men who are seeing all these other Black men's perspectives and point of views, and oh, this woman did me wrong, she did me dirty, she did me this. So then they think Black women be doing people wrong, be doing people dirty, they angry Black women, this and that. And so it's this narrative that's being created, that when we're find ourselves in these echo chambers and we're echoing it around, we don't get the chance to actually sit in a space with Black men and with Black women and have conversations to the point where both sides can actually understand how the other person feels and why they feel that way.
Yeah. I've also found myself in that echo chamber as well for a long time, and I still bounce back. Like, I'm not about to sit up here and act like my feed is not full of Black women in lash businesses and spirituality. I'm just not gonna act like that. Love a Black woman from infinity to infinity, okay? But what I have noticed is, and I've said this talking to a lot of men recently, actually, is that a lot of times Black women, we use a lot of use a lot of research, and we use a lot, which is always good in presenting an argument, don't get me wrong. But the problem occurs when we use so much research and we're saying like, the reason y'all act like this is because of misogyny, and the reason y'all act like this is this, and this, and it's hurting y'all too. And, we're giving facts, and I'm not saying the facts are wrong, because they be right. But the problem is that a lot of times the human experience is not always it's just not always factual. It's not always calculated. It's not emotions play a huge part in that, and we ignore so many emotions that are tied to years and years of their identity being tied to misogyny. And a lot of times I've seen us just try to like erase that, like, okay, well, your identity is tied to misogyny, you're wrong. And they're like, huh, girl, like, let me tell you something, and then obviously they're going to get defensive, as you would too, if you were told your entire identity is not right. It's just, it's just like when a lot of people who are misogynist and who are homophobic say the same things to the LGBT community. Your identity is wrong, and this is why, based off of their facts from the Bible, with their supporting claims from the Bible, and we're using supporting claims from history and supporting claims from, and at the same time, their identity is still tied to this. Like, you're literally saying that their identity is not valid enough because you have this, supporting facts. And that's what makes it so difficult, because we have to not only support them in their emotions, to get rid of quote unquote misogyny, we have to make sure that we're supporting their emotions, even if it doesn't directly tied to what we're standing on, and the hill that we're willing to die on. It's going to be very difficult on both sides. I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, but on both sides, when they talk about like Black men podcasts, they just need to stop having podcasts. But it's like, I be listening and these people are hurt, like straight hurt. And like I said before, a lot of times they are hurt from misogyny and don't realize it. But a lot of times they're hurt from the words that we're saying. It's just defense after defense, and they're defending themselves on claims that might not have even been made, but they're, like you said, they've been stuck in this echo chamber for so long, it's on repeat. Yeah. It might not even be being said anymore. It might not be saying anything to you, but now it's on repeat. Y'all ain't shit. Constantly on repeat. So now I'm just in constant defense mode. Same as Black women. Y'all loud. Nobody wants y'all. So what do? Okay, I'm gonna be the baddest bitch, and we don't gotta do nothing. Nobody's even saying anything wrong to us. But now it's like, y'all been telling me for years I'm not attractive. Y'all been telling me for years that I'm not this, I'm not that. So we're not even listening to the other side, and they might have changed their whole perspective.
Exactly. That's the point. That's it. And that can lead us into the next point, which is it's dangerous. It's dangerous to be in these echo chambers, and you find yourself almost being outdated even, and what's actually going on outside of the echo chamber that you have found yourself to be in. And so outside of being like outdated, Jay, any other dangers that you can think of when it comes to being in the echo chamber?
You can think of like extremes where, like I said, a lot of times people who are in the echo chamber start to become defensive, and extreme defense always never ends up in a good space. Like, it always ends up in some either violence or chaos or just not peaceful. So that's a huge, obviously, danger. But you said one, I don't want to say small, but not a severe danger, which is just limiting your opportunity to learn. And when you limit your opportunity to understand someone else's perspective, you're limiting your own perspective. I think when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about how a lot of times now, especially now that we have internet, when we start to self-diagnose, and a lot of people take that self-diagnosis and they run to the hospital and say that this is what, or they ignore the hospital, they run and they tell their doctors, this is what I got. And I don't think that there's a problem with looking online and finding something that supports how you feel, or something that supports what you're going through, and giving your doctor a flat line. I think I might resonate with this. But the thing about being a doctor that differentiates regular civilian experience, I guess, I mean, they're civilians too, but regular non-doctors, that separates them is the fact that they cross-diagnose, and they look into not only what you do have, but let me rule out what you don't. And that's a big thing about the echo chamber. You don't get an opportunity to rule out what you don't. You don't even know what you don't know anything else is going on the other side. So you never get that opportunity to cross-diagnose if your diagnosis is even correct.
Right.
And that's what makes, being a doctor, that's what makes a doctor, honestly, because anybody can go on Google and say that you have this, but you never know what else you might have, or what else you might not have, and how it may play a role in what you do have. So you don't want to limit yourself from opportunities to learn about the other person's side, because it can actually strengthen your argument.
Yeah. As you were saying that, like, that's so relatable, even for like therapists could be doctors too. Like, even now when you were saying that, because you can like look up and be like, oh, this person's narcissistic. That's like the
Oh,
one. That's the one that everyone likes to
yes.
throw around. Narcissistic. And a lot of times, a lot of these disorders are actually like a lot of the symptoms are very, very similar across the board. And I'm what I like to think of is it's not the symptoms, it's the intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So at least when it comes to like mental, I wouldn't now
Yeah.
when it comes to like the body, like medical, that's like a whole nother field. But in the mental field, like it's intentions behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you can have the same like you have depressive symptoms in PTSD, and you also have them in borderline, and you also have them in like you depression, kind of anxiety. It kind of trickles around. So being able to know the intention, and a lot of times knowing the other person's intention, kind of go back to the echo chamber, knowing the other person's intention, that helps a lot with understanding them and understanding more outside of your own chamber. So it expands. It's almost like I'm envisioning this zone of proximity. That's something like that we talk about in like psychology, zone of proximity. And you have yourself in the middle, and then outside, if you're listening to this, imagine in a circle. You have a circle, you have yourself inside the circle, then you have a circle that is outside that circle, like it's
Mm-hmm.
surrounding you. That outside circle is usually your environment. So that outside circle is the environment. And for you, in order for you to expand your zone of proximity, in order for you to expand your mind, in order for you to expand your knowledge, you have to reach out and look out into the environment. And that might be people in the environment, that might be um, contact, whatever, but you have to reach out in order to expand it. Because if not, you're limited. You're still in the inside, and there's so much more outside of you. And then there's so much more. There's a whole nother one that's just out of almost everybody's reach. That's what people are like, oh, what happens when we die? Like that's
Yeah.
completely out of all of our reach.
Right. That's like on some philosophical shit for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But it makes you realize that in order to even gain empathy in general, you have to escape the echo chamber. I don't think empathy can live inside of an echo chamber. And we all want to be empathetic because that's what aids growth. That's what expands your mind. And being able to go outside of, like you said, these zones of proximity so that you can even come back to your zone of proximity and let them know this is what they doing on the other side. Like that's a strategy of war, y'all. Okay. Honestly, this is what's cracking on the other side of the fence so that we can be ready over here. Let you know what they're thinking. That's a
mm-hmm,
lot of times what they do to prepare for debates. And I think that
mm-hmm,
is something that is crucial that we're missing in the Black community. And we talk about this a lot is communication, and we struggle with communication. And I feel like having empathy and being able to go outside of your immediate circle is going to really help amplify our communication in our community.
for sure, for
For
sure.
sure.
For sure. And as we're talking about like escaping the echo chamber, like kind of expanding out our horizons, expanding our minds, our zone of proximities, being able to network is like huge and important. And not just networking just to network, but networking intentionally and with an open mind. That sets the foundation for being able to expand your own knowledge and understanding this other person's point of view, which is like one of the things that we really, really want to do with this podcast is bringing on people who have like totally different mindsets from our own so that we can have conversations with them. So if you find us talking about topics and you're like, hell no, I completely disagree. Y'all sound crazy. Like if you
Mhm.
find yourself thinking those thoughts, like reach out to us, please, because I love conversations like that because I want to know why you think that way. Like my
Yeah.
profession of work literally loves like understanding the human mind, understanding why people do and why people think the way they think. So yeah.
Sure.
Any other ways of escaping the echo chamber that you thought of, Jay?
Other than networking, I said networking is a top priority, obviously. But for me, it's traveling, y'all. And if that means just hopping on a bus and going a couple blocks down, we have a best friend who literally I feel like she's top tier. I don't know if this is networking. This is both networking and traveling. That girl will talk to it don't matter who. Like it don't matter. We will be, and this drives me nuts. I don't know if it's just the nonchalant girl in me. Like if you meet me, y'all, you will see I will be in a book like to myself. I don't always like to interact. We'll be at the grocery store. I remember it was one 4th of July. She's like, we going to your barbecue. I'm like, we like talking to somebody in line at the grocery store. Like, we got a lady. But even the having those conversations at the grocery store, putting your phone down and just talking to the person in front of you and sharing a similar experience, like, oh my God, this line is long as hell. You could literally get some real true shit coming out of that experience with that person in front of you whose life is completely different. You don't know anything about this person. And just having more experiences where you're outside of where you normally go. Maybe go to the Kroger that's farther, or maybe go to the Walmart that's on the opposite side of town. But talking to people, asking questions when you do travel, if you do go overseas, that's a huge one for me. When I go overseas, I try to talk to everybody. If my granny from Guatemala is listening, hey girl, I try to talk to everyone. I don't care what age, I don't care what nationality, because in spots like that, when you're very vulnerable and you're in a space that you don't understand, you're going to need to make connections. And so being able to have those communication skills and just hopping out, y'all, it's hard. And I get it, because I am not someone who likes to talk to people either, but just hopping out there on a limb and putting yourself in spaces in which you might need to talk to somebody who does not look like you actually helps me, when you have no other choice but to talk to somebody who does not look like you. So traveling is a huge one. And if that's just, like I said, up the street, that's cool too.
Yeah, I love that. I love traveling. Like being able to, that's what you talked about a lot back when we were like in college, wanting this program and being able to teach empathy to children, because a lot of times, like, we're born empathetic. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, that's something that we are born with. You hear a baby cry. If you have a baby in a room with another baby and the baby's crying, the other baby's gonna cry. Like, unless they learned helplessness, and that's just if they learned that if I cry, ain't shit gonna happen for me. Ain't nobody gonna come help me. So,
and then so nobody should come help you. That's
exactly.
where it comes from. Nobody helped me, so nobody should come help you.
Exactly. That point right there, echo chamber again. Once again,
right.
Get up out the echo chamber, y'all. Like, do you find yourself in an echo chamber? And if so, like, what kind? I'm also part of the beehive, so
yeah, we're not leaving that one.
That one ain't going nowhere. The moment I hear somebody say overrated, who?
We ready to tussle on the NBFR.
We had a best friend. We was ready to fight on spot.
Right. Got a tussle for me. We're not leaving. So don't come in the comments saying we leaving. Because we not.
10 toes deep. But yes, if you find yourself in an echo chamber, what echo chamber do you find yourself in? And are you struggling with getting out of that echo chamber? Are you reaching out to other people if you're struggling? Are you trying to network? So just kind of giving our thoughts, or giving your thoughts on our thoughts of the echo chamber and what you think. So with that being said, make sure you are following us at nbfr podcast on all social media platforms, making sure that you are sharing this podcast, because a lot of times y'all can listen to it, but what about sharing it with your loved ones? Like, I'm confused. I mean, how are we supposed to heal together if we're not sharing it? Like, that don't make no sense. So
share it outside of your echo chamber.
Share outside your echo chamber, period. And then make sure that you are checking in with us next week. And until next time, bye-bye.